Every day, a war rages on over Spotify and Apple Music. Everyone wants to know the best way to experience music. Then we can listen to the Bunny Girl Senpai at the highest quality and cry at the highest quality. So with that mission statement, I've decided to make the brave decision of pitting these two juggernaut streaming music services against each other and seeing which one gives you, the viewer, more nutsack density. So on this episode of Dragon Ball Z, we'll be seeing which one is better, Spotify or Apple Music. Whichever one wins could determine your nutsack size, so I really recommend you pay attention very closely. Unfortunately, my nuts will always be bigger than yours because I use Limewire, but I digress. So I guess let's just go. Whenever I think about the most important aspects of a streaming service, the first one that comes to mind is the user interface. So of course, to reel me in on a streaming app, it needs to look pretty, clean, crisp, and fresh. So I guess we can hop on Spotify first, and this looks magnificent! Spotify has such an elegant look. This is seriously a great user interface that optimizes everything to its core. I mean, look at these fun little buttons. Every button pops out nicely, so you know exactly what you're clicking and what the button does. The buttons are nice and rounded and so easy to read. I can clearly see the play button on Spotify, and it looks so much nicer compared to this garbage on Apple Music. I mean, what is this font? Am I typing an academic essay right now? This is the type of play button used by people that say their favorite color is green. That sexy, beautiful curvature of the buttons on Spotify is amazing. As I touch it and glide my finger across the screen, the finger is graced with the silky, smooth green filling. And what does Apple Music have? Nothing! But what really helps these buttons pop is the color scheme of Spotify. Dark mode mixed with green is perfect for Spotify. Apple Music has dark mode too, but it's just not the same when the majority of the buttons and UI is so boring. The follow more friends button is probably one of the best looking buttons here. I mean, they too probably know that the users of Apple Music most likely don't have any friends. Okay, now in its defense, I think the simplicity of the Apple Music AI is nice. While it's not flashy, I love big color, I think it is pretty compact for a streaming service. I just love the way the songs are organized in the playlists. Like seriously, it looks pretty nice and it's really convenient and you can easily just play a song and it's super seamless. And I mean, if this layout gets you a hard on, I think it counts. I'm gonna have to give the UI point to Spotify, man. It's always nice to have some fun little enjoyable features and customization options for any service, and I think both Apple Music and Spotify serve well in that regard. Profile customization and the social aspects of both apps are great and practically the same. You can set profile pictures for your own profile and playlists, you can add friends really easily as well. I talked about that previously with the Apple Music peeps since you guys definitely need it. Now, on PC Spotify, there's a feature so fantastical, so magnificent, so controversial that Moses used it to divide the Red Sea. Spotify will tell you exactly what your friends are listening to at this moment. Unfortunately, this listening activity feature doesn't really exist on Apple Music. I mean, yeah, sure, you can see someone's recently listened to playlists, but that's really about all. With Spotify, you get all the juicy, scrumptious, extravagant, magnificent, fantastical details on a user's listening activity as long as they've enabled it as public. Either way, both apps have pretty nice social features, which is awesome with the music app. I need to be aware that grown-ass men are unironically listening to Doja Cat. Okay, we need to be able to contaminate these dangerous biohazards. I gotta hand it to Apple Music though for the shuffle feature. Spotify feels a bit biased in its shuffle feature, and by a bit, I mean a lot, where it'll more commonly play songs you listen to a lot. But that's not the reason I'm using the shuffle. If I wanted to listen to Renai Circulation for the 1,000th time, I'd listen to Renai Circulation for the 1,000th time. Using the very trustworthy site of Reddit.com, people do say that Spotify isn't a true shuffle as it relies on an algorithm. Apparently though, it seems Apple Music is an actual shuffle, which definitely sounds right. While it is anecdotal, I do feel Apple Music has far better variance in its shuffling. This is definitely one of my biggest complaints with Spotify. I'm using shuffling because I want a randomized listening experience. Apple Music feels completely random, and as a result, I love to shuffle on Apple Music since I know I'm gonna get some wacky songs in there. I mean, come on. Lucky Star opening? Anyone? Oh, you want me to get out of the car? Okay. There's actually a really interesting article on this by Spotify themselves, so I'd recommend you check it out. For Spotify, the shuffling problem is a big detriment to the listening experience, since I'm an indecisive weirdo who can't decide what anime girl he wants to hear singing a song next. As a result, even though Spotify has slightly better customization, I'll give Apple Music a full point for this section. The shuffling is very important to me, and I think Apple Music does it far better. And this is where Apple Music is just... wow, I can definitely see why people prefer orange juice over apple juice. My fucking god. Spotify Wrapped is such a genius and amazing feature. It's a minuscule thing, but it's so ingrained for Spotify users that it's such a big deal. Sometimes I'll be listening to music and I'll be like, oh crap, I gotta stop listening to this music. What if this shows up on my Spotify Wrapped? Oh god! I can't be that one weirdo who doesn't have Ed Sheeran on their playlist, but oh no, I am that fucking weirdo. But it's not just the build-up. The actual Spotify Wrapped is beautiful and super entertaining to go through. Every slide looks gorgeous, and going through the slideshow feels like a story. Spotify Wrapped will be trending on Twitter, where everyone posts their amazing Wrapped. It's great because then I can finally see who's normal, who's a little odd, and who's fucking insane. It's just fun to get these stats, and to me, Spotify Wrapped will always be something to look forward to. Now, with such a successful idea, you would think that Apple Music would take the time to implement such a profitable idea. Apple Music has a ton of users too, so surely they must implement some type of Spotify Wrapped-esque future into their streaming service as well. And that didn't happen. What do you think this is, a goddamn charity? Apple Music's Wrapped has to be one of the most insulting things I've ever seen. I mean, if you thought the ending to Game of Thrones was insulting, wait till you hear what Apple's doing. Yeah, nothing. I mean, what is this? It just looks so boring. It's not a slideshow of any kind. It just looks boring, it doesn't feel like it tells a story, and most importantly, there is nowhere near as much data as there is with Spotify Wrapped. Just the top songs I played that year. Oh yeah, wow, cool. I played fucking Bohemian Rhapsody for 20 million hours. I too am part of the human race. With Spotify, you had so many fun and useless stats. With none of those on Apple Music Replay, there's just nothing fascinating. Even Reddit Recap is better than this. When Reddit Recap is better than Apple Music Replay, you know the rapture's coming. It's so upsetting to see how Apple Music just doesn't give a shit about their Apple Music Replay. They could copy Spotify Wrapped so easily and it would instantly attract more users to Apple Music. But Apple being Apple, we're never getting that. Clearly for this section, Spotify wins. Apple Music Replay is just so bare bones and boring. Spotify Wrapped is a sensation on the internet, and it feels like a true event. Something I can look forward to with enthusiasm at the end of the year. Apple, the company with more money than Mr. Krabs, can't update their Apple Music Replay. This is terrible. With each day, it feels like there's nothing new and creative they try and do with the service. Spotify, on the other hand, feels just as usable and intuitive as Apple Music, but with far more character. But all in all, the best music service out of everything, in all of history, in all of the multiverse, in all of this competition, is not Spotify. It's YouTube Music, baby. We smoking that Nintendo pack tonight. Woo!